Cristiano, ¿qué? Ahora 5 y a dormir, ¿eh? Cristiano, 5, ¿qué?
Llorar, a Turín, a llorar. Ya está, 2-0, ni manita ni nada, 2-0 y fuera.
The floodlights of the Camp Nou shimmered over the Catalan grass. Nearly 100,000 voices rose in a deafening chant of triumph. But amidst the sea of Blaugrana, one man stood like a statue of ice. Cristiano Ronaldo. Chin high, gaze fixed, a silent predator in a stadium that wanted him broken. Weeks earlier, Barcelona felt they had finally buried the ghost of their greatest tormentor. For them, Ronaldo wasn't just an opponent. He was a decade of scars. He was the man who had silenced their crowd, snatched their trophies, and haunted their golden era like an unshakable nightmare. So, when they humiliated a Ronaldo-less Juventus 2-0 in Turin, they didn't just win, they gloated. They took to social media to mock him, claiming they had brought the GOAT to Italy just to show him what a real king looked like. They danced on what they believed was the end of his reign. But tonight, the script belonged to him. Because Cristiano Ronaldo has never been just a player. He is a force of vengeance that feeds on your laughter. He didn't come to the Camp Nou to participate. He came to collect a debt. This is the story of how laughing at the wrong man cost Barcelona their dignity. Before we talk about Anfield, we need to talk about a ghost. Because Barcelona didn't just walk into this tie carrying confidence. They walked in carrying history. Years of dominance. Years of Messi dismantling everything in front of him. Years of Spanish football owning Europe. But somewhere in the back of every Barcelona player's mind, buried deep, never spoken aloud, lived a memory that refused to die. Cristiano Ronaldo. The man who had made tormenting Spanish football look personal. The man who had stood in stadiums exactly like this one, in nights exactly this hostile, and delivered moments that defied every logical explanation. Time after time. Season after season. When the pressure was at its most unbearable, he didn't shrink. He fed on it. And now he was gone from Spain. Moved to Juventus. No longer their problem. Or so they thought. Because Ronaldo hadn't just left Spain. He had left behind a template. A blueprint for exactly what happened to giants who stopped fearing their opponents. Liverpool had studied that blueprint. And on this night, in this stadium, with the cop already beginning to shake the foundations of Anfield to its core, someone was about to follow it. The Nou Camp, May 1st, 2019. And Barcelona didn't just win. They performed. Messi was everywhere. Drifting, ghosting, destroying. Luis Suarez stretched Liverpool's backline until it snapped. And then came the moment that felt less like a goal and more like a statement. Messi stepping over the ball, planting his feet, and curling a free kick into the top corner with the casual arrogance of a man signing his name on someone else's tombstone. 3 goals. No reply. The Nou Camp erupted. The Spanish press declared the tie finished before the final whistle had even blown. Pundits queued up to pay their respects. Barcelona's players walked off that pitch not like men who had won a battle, but like men who had already won the war. And that was the moment the rot set in. Because there is a particular kind of danger that comes disguised as total control. A sedative that the greatest teams in history have swallowed, right before everything collapsed around them. Barcelona had stopped respecting Liverpool. Worse than that, they had stopped fearing them. And in 4 days' time, on a rain-soaked night in England, Liverpool had a very simple message to deliver. Fear us now. The football world had made up its mind. And it did so loudly. Newspapers ran headlines that dripped with certainty. Television studios filled with pundits who spoke about Barcelona's Anfield visit the way people discuss a dental appointment. Uncomfortable, perhaps, but ultimately inevitable. Social media had already booked Barcelona's place in the final. The aggregate scoreline wasn't just a lead. It was, in the eyes of the world, a verdict. But there was something else feeding this confidence. Something more personal. For the first time in years, the footballing world believed Messi's greatest rival was finished. Ronaldo had left Spain. Left the Champions League's comfort zone. Gone to Juventus, a fine club, yes, but not a European superpower. The man who had haunted Spanish football for a decade was finally, mercifully, someone else's problem. The narrative wrote itself. This was Messi's era now. Unchallenged. Undisputed. Unthreatened. The celebration was premature. Dangerously, catastrophically premature. Because while the world was busy burying Ronaldo's legacy and crowning Barcelona eternal kings of Europe, nobody was watching Liverpool. Nobody was watching a quiet German manager, standing alone in a Melwood training ground, drawing something on a tactics board that was about to change everything. 7 minutes. That was all it took for the first crack to appear. Not a goal, not yet, but a shift. An almost imperceptible change in the atmosphere inside the new camp that only the most attentive observers could feel. Liverpool weren't sitting deep. Liverpool weren't defending desperately, hopelessly, the way a team accepting its fate defends. They were pressing, hunting, snapping at Barcelona's heels with a ferocity that made the home crowd momentarily, uncomfortably quiet. Then Suarez miscontrolled. Then Messi gave the ball away. Small things. Individually meaningless. Collectively terrifying. And then it happened. A Liverpool move, sharp and direct and utterly purposeful, ended with the ball in the Barcelona net. The away end detonated. The Liverpool players didn't celebrate wildly. They celebrated with intent. Pointing at each other. Eyes burning. A message delivered not to the crowd, but to the 11 men in red and blue who suddenly looked, for the first time all evening, genuinely unsettled. The new camp didn't panic. Not yet. But the laughter had stopped. The whispers had begun. And somewhere in the Barcelona dressing room, a thought was forming that nobody dared speak aloud. What if they actually believe they can do this? 1 goal changes atmospheres. 2 goals break souls. When Wijnaldum ghosted into the box, untracked, unmarked, arriving with the quiet devastation of someone who had been planning this moment for months, and buried his header past Ter Stegen, the new camp didn't just go quiet. It went cold. Because this wasn't just a goal. This was mathematics transforming into something psychological. Something visceral. 3-0 had felt like a fortress. 3-2 suddenly felt like a ruin. The same aggregate scoreline that had made Barcelona's players sleep soundly for days was now a living, breathing thing with teeth, and it was biting. Watch the Barcelona players in that moment. Really watch them. The eye contact that doesn't happen. The hands on hips. The goalkeeper staring at the ground a half-second too long. These are not the movements of champions processing a setback. These are the movements of men hearing a sound they don't recognize. Doubt. For the first time in this tie, Barcelona needed someone to stand up. Needed Messi to grab this game by the throat and strangle the momentum back out of Liverpool's hands. But Messi was quiet. And Anfield was still roaring. And there were still 11 minutes left.